He started an interracial church in Greenfield. It didn't go very far. It wasn't a matter of the interracial, it was just the fact of man's personality. He acted, in my estimation, and again, this is my thinking, he acted in a very unwise fashion, and to a certain degree, very arrogant. You don't have so many rights as a faculty member, or even as a local pastor. And the administration of a school certainly is not in the hands of a faculty member or a local pastor not connected to the school. And he was removed for simply violating the policies of our school. No faculty member is kept to openly criticize his administration. As Dr. Bob Senior said, you get plenty of cussing free. Why should we pay for it? And he was removed for simply not having enough wisdom to keep his mouth shut. And if he disagreed that violently, then he should have resigned. Now, many people disagree with the policy of the school, but since it's none of your business and it's not a matter of sin, then you just keep quiet about it. The school doesn't ask that you bow down to every policy they establish. You simply accept the fact that the administration makes rules that they feel would make for better working relationships. Whether you agree with them or not, you agree to keep them. That's the same in any place of employment. And many of the faculty here, in fact, I would dare say the vast majority of the faculty that I know have no objection to interracial students. I don't know too many that prefer interracial marriage, but for having students here. But I don't know any that object to our rules against interracial dating. They don't mind. In fact, we need the minority students here. How are they going to get good training to evangelize? They don't come to a place that teaches them properly. So, I'm happy to see all we can have. But I'm not in favor of interracial dating, interracial marriage. I have no problem with having blacks and whites in the same church. I've seen churches where that was very effective, where there's no problem. But certainly I'm not going to go on a crusade to say the school, if it doesn't do this and doesn't do that, they're wicked and ungodly. That's Peter's problem.
So you felt it was more his outspoken criticism of the school that caused the problem rather than just his having the position that interracial dating is okay?
Oh, there's no question about it. It's, again, it's a man's personality and his unwise behavior. It simply wasn't proper, it wasn't ethical.
Okay. And there was another case later on, I believe it was in 81 or 82, involving Southside, that I believe they admitted a mixed couple to the...
Yeah, I wasn't in on any of that. All I know is that I do not even know if that was ever resolved. I think it seems to me, and again, this is purely guesswork since I'm not aware of any of it, it seems to me that finally the decision was made to let them handle their own problems, and as long as they were not advocating and encouraging such. The fact is that there was a couple that had been married for some time before they were saved, and once they were married like that, there was no resolving of the problem. You don't resolve it by having a black mate go to a black church and a white mate to a white church and the children go in between. There is no solution to such a problem. And I think what it did, it just pointed out the tragedy of the situation. Not accepted by the black community, not accepted by the white community, and it shows me this is one of the reasons why pragmatically, if for no other reason, the position here is correct.
Okay. You mentioned your position several times. What is your opinion on, say, segregation first and then interracial marriage?
The Bible says nothing on the subject. Therefore, I think that segregation is a matter of voluntary choice. And you speak of segregation. I cannot see that legal segregation is correct. I cannot see that it is moral. nor can I see that integration is moral by legal force that violates freedom. And my point is that it is a matter of pure choice. It should be. Pragmatically, it works better and has always worked better. And it is proved better that the blacks work better in a black environment, the whites work better in a white environment. Check the educational system since there's been integration. It's gone straight down every year. The blacks are doing more poorly than they did before. So it's obvious that the idea of segregation had certain advantages that were intrinsic, and that in the guise of fairness, chaos has ensued. So I'm not for segregation legally, I'm not for integration legally. It should be a matter of voluntary association rather than forced integration or segregation. That's realistic. I have chosen on occasions to be with some of my black friends. Used to play golf. And out at the golf course there was a fine black man who was a school teacher locally. And whenever we were out there, he and I would play together. That was before the forced integration. So it was purely a matter of choice. I saw no problem with it. He had no problem with it. But at the end of the day, he went his way, I went mine. And it was a matter of voluntary association, good understandings. But to legally force a person into a category either way, my submission is immoral.
About on interracial dating marriage.
Again, pragmatically, it's just senseless. It doesn't work. It creates problems for everyone. It creates problems for the two families. It creates problems for the couple. It creates problems for the children. And that's a fact. I personally consider racial bias as an innate part of man put there by God for the purpose of the separation of the races. It was God who separated. There was racial bias on the part of every race against every other race. It is not a black-white issue. In the Orient, Westerners are contemptuously referred to as round-eyed, and it is not a term of endearment. They're spat upon when they're in the minority. They're treated, in fact, they'll make slaves if possible. And so there is just as much bias from that direction, and I think that was originally put there so that God's separation would remain in effect. And every attempt to force integration has failed abysmally. You ask blacks today, they would prefer to live in an area of peace and where they can have their own schools. Now, they don't want to be kept out of white schools. They don't want to be kept out legally. They want a choice. And if they have a choice, generally, they will choose to be with other blacks. Now, I say generally, you cannot, again, force them into a pattern. There's no agreement in the black community on this point. How can we solve it from the white side? So it would seem to me, pragmatically, the simple fact that it doesn't work to have interracial dating. It creates every kind of problem in the world. I think it's interesting in this. In the service, the military, where there's interracial marriage, the odds are astronomical. It's something like 12 to 1. The number of black men that marry white women to the number of white men who marry black men. In other words, white women are more inclined to marry black men than white men are inclined to marry black women. That's a statistic from the armed forces. And so it seems to me that it creates a certain problem there. Whatever lesson you can draw from it, it's simply a statement that ordinarily white men are not attracted to the black men, whereas white women are attracted to black men. And that creates an imbalance. Creates a situation. I just don't see any I just don't see any common sense involved in it. Now again, I have to be very candid. When I say interracial, I'm talking about here on the realism, black-white. Because I have not seen that problem, and there is not that problem between Oriental and white. There is acceptance.
So do you think it's more a cultural thing than a racial makeup?
Well, the fact is that a man has to be blind not to be able to see the difference between black and white. And no matter how much you are, quote, unbiased, you still have eyesight. And it is a visual shock every time, whether you are mentally in agreement with it or not. It is still a visual object lesson that the two don't match. That's what I'm saying. It is something that is visual. And to a degree it is cultural, but no culture is going to change the object of my eyesight. I don't care how cultured he is, or she is, a blank is blank. Now, when I talk to the person, for a moment, I forget it. I do not have any awareness of color when I'm talking to the person. But when I see them, again, it is a shock to my senses. That is not white. And to say that we are colorblind is a lie, because people are never colorblind. And so the obvious contrast in the implementation of the skin is a very great difference that you cannot ignore. And people that ignore it are not being honest. There is a difference. So again, you say culture. To a certain degree. To a certain degree.
Not cut and dry.
Yeah, it can't be. Again, culture doesn't change your appearance.
Okay, well, that just about wraps up everything I want to ask. I'll go ahead and shut this off.
All right.